Naya had always been a girl who loved the wind. She loved how it carried the sound of horses running, how it moved through the tall grass, and how it whispered stories of places far beyond the plains. She was young, but people in her tribe often said her spirit was older than her years. She listened more than she spoke, and she noticed the smallest things: broken twigs, new footprints on the ground, the changing color of the sky before rain. To her family, she was a light that made even hard days feel softer. Life in the Comanche tribe had a rhythm of its own. Every morning, the sun rose and cast a golden glow on the open land. Naya would wake early, help her mother with small tasks, and then join the children near the river. They learned how to ride horses, how to read nature's signs, and how to show respect to the world around them. Naya's father often told her, "A strong person is one who understands the land, not one who tries to control it." She kept those words close to her heart. But the land was not always peaceful. Sometimes misunderstandings grew between nearby groups, and even small disagreements could turn into large problems. People wanted to protect their homes, their families, and their pride. Most of the time, it was possible to talk and settle the matter. But there were moments when fear, anger, or old grudges made things complicated. One afternoon, word reached the Comanche camp that a nearby group believed the Comanche had taken something that belonged to them. Nobody knew exactly how the rumor started. Some said it was a misunderstanding between two hunters. Some believed a traveler had carried the wrong message to the wrong people. Whatever the reason, tension rose in the air like an approaching storm. Naya's tribe tried to send peaceful signs. They wanted to clear the confusion, not make it worse. But the nearby group was already unsettled, and a few among them believed taking action would make them appear strong. One mistake led to another until one day, while Naya was gathering herbs with two older women, a small group approached them. They did not treat her harshly, but they acted quickly. They believed taking Naya would send a message to her tribe. They told the older women to return home and said that the conflict would end soon if the Comanche understood their seriousness. Naya, frightened but calm, tried to ask what they wanted. But the group did not answer her clearly. They seemed unsure themselves, like people who acted too fast and now didn't know how to slow down. Naya remembered her father's words. In moments of fear, the first thing lost is clear thinking. She knew she had to stay steady. She reminded herself to breathe slowly and not panic. She did not blame the people around her. She sensed they were acting from confusion more than anger. The group traveled for hours, guiding Naya through the forest and across open land. They spoke quietly among themselves. Naya listened and realized they had no intention of harming her, but they wanted to hold her long enough to get a message across. Yet as the sun began to lower, their plan became less certain. They argued quietly, unsure what to do next. Some said to return her the next morning. Others thought they should keep her hidden for a while. Their lack of clear direction made Naya uneasy. Eventually, when the sky began turning orange and pink, the group stopped near a tall, old tree standing alone in an open area. They decided to leave her there for a short time, planning to return later with elders who could decide the next step. Naya tried to stay brave. She asked them again why they wanted her to stay there, but they only told her to wait and that she would not be alone for long. They tied her hands in a simple, loose way, just enough so she wouldn't walk away. The group walked off, their voices fading into the wind. Naya watched the horizon, feeling the weight of the moment settle in her chest. She was not harmed, but she was far from home. She felt small under the wide sky, yet she remembered her mother's words. Even when you feel alone, your spirit is not alone. The land listens. The sky listens. Your courage listens. Slowly, she allowed herself to breathe deeply. She looked around. The plains stretched endlessly. The tree she was tied to was old, with thick bark and wide branches. It looked like it had seen many seasons and held many secrets. The wind moved the grass gently, almost as if it was trying to comfort her. As the light dimmed, the air became cooler. The colors of sunset softened into deeper shades. Naya felt the stillness around her growing stronger. She listened to the sounds, rustling leaves, distant calls of birds returning to their nests, and the soft whisper of the evening breeze. She tried to focus on these details instead of fear. Her mind drifted back to her home. She pictured her mother preparing food, her father sharpening tools, and the children laughing near the river. She wondered if they knew she was missing. She imagined them looking for her, calling her name. She wanted to believe that they would find her soon, but she also knew the land was vast and it would take time. The sky grew darker as night approached. Naya felt the first touch of worry slowly rising inside her. She was brave, but she was still young, and being in the open at night brought uncertainty. She tried to reassure herself by remembering stories her grandmother told her, stories about strength hidden within silence, and how calm thinking could help someone find solutions even in difficult moments. She shifted slightly, testing the knot around her hands. It was firm, but not painful. She knew she could not free herself right away, but she also sensed the group had not tied her in a harmful way. Instead, their actions felt rushed and confused, like people unsure of the consequences of their decisions. Slowly, stars began to appear above her. One by one, they lit up the sky, creating a blanket of small, shining points. Naya had always loved watching stars. She felt they carried stories from long ago and guided travelers during difficult journeys. Tonight, she whispered silently to them, hoping someone or something was listening. A quiet calm settled within her. She knew being afraid would not help her. She reminded herself of who she was. Naya, daughter of strong parents, child of the plains, a girl who had been taught to read the world around her. She had courage inside her, even if she felt unsure. But as the sky grew darker, she became aware of something else. The land at night was different. Sounds changed. Shapes shifted. The peaceful quiet of dusk began to turn into the deep stillness of night. Naya listened carefully. She tried not to let her imagination make things worse. She knew the forest and plains were full of creatures that lived their lives just as humans did. She respected them, but she also understood that nighttime was their time to wander. She swallowed gently, keeping her breath steady. She reminded herself, again and again, I am strong. I am safe for now. Someone will come. Far in the distance, she thought she heard a faint sound, like the soft rhythm of hooves on the ground. At first, she wondered if she imagined it. The sound came again, clearer this time, steady and measured. It was the sound of someone riding slowly, carefully, as if they were studying the land while they moved. Naya lifted her head slightly, even though she couldn't see far in the darkness. She listened with all her focus. The sound grew a little louder, then softened, then paused, as if the rider had stopped to look around. She didn't know who it was, but something inside her whispered that this moment might change everything. The wind brushed her cheek gently, as if reminding her to stay hopeful. She closed her eyes for a moment and breathed deeply, trusting that the world was not done writing her story. Someone was out there, moving through the shadows of the plains, and the night was far from over. Luke Carson had spent many years riding across the wide plains, but there was something different about this journey. The air felt heavier, the sky felt larger, and the land carried a quiet that stayed close to his heart. He was a man who understood silence. He felt the world around him, the way the wind changed direction, the way birds flew before sunset, and the way the earth made its own music if someone listened carefully. Luke was not a man of many words. People often said he spoke with his actions more than his voice. He had learned that life on the open land required patience, clear thinking, and kindness. He had grown up working with horses, riding from one town to another, helping where he could and moving on when the work was done. Some called him a traveler, some called him a cowboy, and some simply knew him as the quiet stranger who showed up when help was needed. That evening, as he followed a narrow trail along the plains, Luke felt something unusual in the air. The sky had a soft orange glow, slowly turning into shades of purple and blue as the sun lowered. His horse, a gentle brown mare named Willow, walked steadily beneath him. Willow was like a companion to him, patient, loyal, and always alert. Luke trusted her instincts more than most things. The day had been long, filled with the warm sun and miles of riding. Luke had planned to set up camp near a small stream he knew was somewhere ahead. He had been following this trail for years, and he could remember almost every turn, every tree, every place where the land dipped or rose. The plains were like a map in his mind, but tonight, the land seemed different. He noticed marks on the ground that didn't match the usual pattern. The soil near the trail looked disturbed, as if someone had moved through in a hurry. Some branches were bent in a way that suggested recent movement. Luke slowed Willow down and leaned forward, studying the ground carefully. He wasn't the kind of man who jumped to conclusions, but he also didn't ignore signs when they appeared. The plains were wide, and people often traveled through them for many reasons, but something about these signs felt uneasy. It was as if someone had passed through with worry in their steps. Luke gently rubbed Willow's neck and whispered, "Easy, girl. Let's take it slow." His voice was calm, almost soft enough to blend into the wind. He continued along the trail, his eyes scanning the land around him. He noticed more signs, small footprints, slightly uneven paths, and faint sounds that didn't belong to the usual evening rhythm. He could not tell who had passed through, but he sensed they were not travelers simply enjoying a quiet ride. As he rode deeper into the plains, the sky grew darker, and the stars began to appear. Luke always felt a special connection to the stars. They reminded him of his childhood and of nights when he and his father slept under the open sky. His father had taught him how to read the stars like a map, how to use them to find direction and comfort. Luke often looked at them when he needed guidance. Tonight, however, he found himself glancing more toward the ground than the sky. Something inside him kept whispering that he wasn't alone. He listened to the wind, waiting for it to carry a sign or sound that would tell him more. After a while, Willow stopped on her own. Her ears perked up, and she shifted her weight slightly. Luke trusted her judgment immediately. He knew she sensed something. He sat still, letting the quiet become even quieter. Then, very faintly, he heard a small, distant sound, almost like someone calling out, but too soft to be sure. Luke turned his head and listened again. The sound came once more, carried through the air like a whisper. It wasn't loud, but it wasn't the sound of an animal either. It felt like a voice, far away but filled with worry. He gently guided Willow off the trail and into the open land. The grass brushed against his boots as the horse walked carefully through the field. Luke kept his attention sharp. He didn't want to scare anyone who might be out there, and he didn't want to walk into a situation without understanding it fully. The land stretched wide before him, quiet and deep. He moved slowly, his eyes adjusting to the fading light. The moon had not risen fully yet, leaving the land covered in soft shadows. Luke blinked a few times, letting his vision settle. He could see the outline of trees in the distance and the shape of a few hills. Then he saw something, just a faint figure standing near a tree. It was hard to see clearly from far away, but the shape didn't move. It didn't look like an animal. It looked still. Too still. Luke felt his heartbeat slow in a steady, focused rhythm. He wasn't afraid, but he knew he had to be careful. People sometimes set traps in the open plains, hoping to catch travelers off guard. He had seen situations like that before, but he didn't feel that kind of danger here. The air didn't carry the same tension. He guided Willow forward slowly, stopping every few steps to listen. When he got a little closer, he noticed something else. The figure wasn't just standing. It appeared to be held in place. Tied, maybe, or leaning against the tree in a strange way that didn't look natural. A gentle worry started rising inside him. He didn't want to assume anything, but he knew something wasn't right. No person would choose to stand so still in the dark plains unless something was wrong. He whispered to Willow again, "Steady, girl. We'll see what's happening." Willow moved carefully, her hooves making soft impressions in the grass. Luke's mind worked quietly as he approached. He thought about all the possibilities. Perhaps someone was lost. Perhaps someone needed help. Someone could have been separated from their group, or maybe someone had simply fallen asleep under the tree and was waking slowly. He didn't want to jump to conclusions, but something inside him kept pushing him forward. As he got closer, the faint moonlight helped him see a little better. He noticed long hair moving slightly in the wind. The figure was small, maybe a young person. They weren't moving much, but Luke thought he saw their head turn slightly, as if they sensed someone approaching. He stopped Willow at a distance where he wouldn't startle the person. He spoke in a calm, gentle tone, letting his voice travel through the dark. "Hello there," he said softly. "I'm not here to trouble you. I'm just passing through. Are you all right?" There was no clear answer at first. Luke waited patiently. The wind moved through the grass again, leaving a soft sound behind it. Then he saw something, a small shift in the figure's posture. Almost like they were trying to respond but couldn't fully. Luke felt a warm sense of responsibility grow in his chest. He knew someone needed help, but he also knew he needed to approach gently, respectfully, and with care. Willow stood quietly beneath him, waiting for his next move. Luke placed his hand on her neck and took a slow breath. The land around him felt wide and open, but at that moment, his focus was only on the small figure near the lone tree. Whatever had happened, whoever the person was, Luke knew one thing clearly: he couldn't turn away. Someone out there was waiting, perhaps hoping, perhaps frightened, and perhaps holding on to the smallest bit of courage. And Luke Carson, the quiet traveler of the plains, felt something guiding him toward them, not just duty, but compassion, steady and strong. The night was calm, but the moment was full of meaning. Luke knew the next steps he took might change everything. Not only for the person tied near the tree, but also for himself. The stars above watched silently as he prepared to ride closer, ready to offer help to a stranger whose face he had not yet seen, but whose presence had already touched his quiet, steady heart. The night had grown deeper, and a soft layer of darkness rested over the land. Naya stood quietly against the old tree, trying to stay calm. Even as her heart felt unsteady, she had tried her best to be strong, but the loneliness of the open plains at night was something she had never experienced before. Every sound felt louder, every shadow seemed longer, and every movement of the wind felt like a whisper reminding her how far away she was from home. But even in that stillness, she kept her hope alive. She believed someone would come. She believed the world had not forgotten her. She looked up at the stars, shining softly above her like small lanterns. Her grandmother used to say, "Stars watch over those who walk with a good heart." Naya held on to those words as tightly as she could. Far away, Luke Carson approached slowly on his horse, Willow, moving with quiet steps through the tall grass. Luke kept his eyes steady, trying to see clearly in the soft light of the rising moon. From a distance, he could now tell that the person near the tree was a young girl. She was standing still, and he felt a growing worry inside him. A child alone at night on the plains was not something he could ignore. He spoke again, softly, hoping not to frighten her. "Hello," he called out in a calm voice. "I'm here to help. You don't need to be afraid." His tone was gentle, warm, and carried no threat, only care. Naya heard the voice and felt a wave of relief wash through her. She didn't know who the stranger was, but the kindness in his voice made her feel safer than she had felt all evening. She lifted her head slightly and tried to speak, but her voice came out weak, barely more than a whisper. "I'm here," she tried to say. Luke caught the soft sound and understood enough. He guided Willow a few steps closer and then slowly got off the horse. He moved carefully, making sure each step was slow and clear, showing that he meant no harm. The last thing he wanted was to frighten the girl even more. As he approached, Luke noticed how tired she looked. Her posture was slumped, and her hair moved gently in the breeze. Her hands were tied loosely, just enough to keep her from moving freely. Luke felt a deep sense of sympathy rise in his chest. No child should ever be left alone in such a place at such a time. He stopped a few feet away to give her space. "You're safe now," he said softly. I won't hurt you. My name is Luke. His voice carried a quiet confidence that made Naya feel she could trust him. Naya took a small breath and nodded faintly. She didn't have the energy to say much, but her eyes met his for a moment. Luke could see the strength in her, even in her tiredness. She had been through something difficult, yet she was still standing, still holding herself bravely. The night around them felt calm but alert, as if the land itself was watching what would happen next. Luke carefully reached into his saddlebag and pulled out a small blanket. He walked slowly toward Naya and draped it gently over her shoulders. Here, he said softly. This will keep you warm. Naya felt the warmth of the blanket settle around her, and it brought a sense of comfort she had been missing since the moment she was taken from her people. She whispered, "Thank you." Luke gave her a small nod. "Let me untie your hands," he said gently. He moved with care, making sure she could see every motion. He didn't want to startle her. When he finally loosened the knot and freed her hands, Naya rubbed her wrists slowly. They weren't hurt, only a little tired. She looked at him again, her voice still soft. "I don't know why they left me here," she said quietly. "They said it would only be for a little while." Luke listened closely, not interrupting her. He wanted her to speak at her own pace. He felt her confusion, her exhaustion, and her quiet strength. "You're not alone anymore," he said. "I'll make sure you get home." Naya felt tears glassing her eyes. Not from sadness, but from relief. She blinked them back, not wanting to seem weak. Luke noticed but said nothing. He knew that tears were not a sign of weakness, they were a sign of courage held too long without rest. For a moment, they stood in silence, letting the calm of the night settle around them. Willow grazed quietly nearby. Sensing the peaceful shift in the air, Luke glanced at the dark horizon. The night was still young, and the land around them was vast. He knew it wouldn't be safe to travel quickly in complete darkness. He wanted to make sure Naya regained some strength before they began moving. "Can you walk?" he asked kindly. Naya nodded slowly. "Yes," she said. "I'm a little tired, but I can." Luke gave a small smile. "Good. Let's move to a safer place. Not too far, just enough to rest for a bit." He guided her toward Willow, letting her lean on him lightly. Every step she took felt like a small victory after standing still for so long. When they reached the horse, Luke helped her sit carefully on Willow's back. He made sure she was steady before walking beside her, holding the reins gently. They moved together through the quiet plains. The moon was higher now, giving the land a soft, silver glow. The wind brushed against their faces, carrying the scent of grass and evening air. Naya felt calmer with every passing moment. While she still didn't understand everything that had happened, she felt safe now, and that was enough for her heart to breathe again. Luke spoke softly as they walked. "What's your name?" he asked. "Naya," she replied in a small but steady voice. "That's a beautiful name," Luke said. "It suits you." Naya felt a tiny smile grow on her face. She couldn't remember the last time she had smiled that day, but it felt good, like a small light returning inside her. They walked until they reached a small clearing near a group of low trees. The area felt quiet and sheltered, a better place to rest than the open plains. Luke helped Naya down from Willow's back and guided her toward a fallen log where she could sit comfortably. "Drink some water," he said, handing her a small canteen. Naya took a few small sips, feeling the cool water soothe her dry throat. "Thank you," she said again. Her voice warmed with genuine gratitude. Luke sat nearby on the grass. He didn't want to overwhelm her with questions, so he let the silence stay for a while. The night sounded peaceful, the rustle of leaves, the soft rhythm of Willow's breathing, and the distant songs of insects. After a few minutes, Naya finally spoke again. "I was gathering herbs with 2 women from my tribe," she began slowly. "Some people from another group came. They seemed upset about something. They didn't hurt me. They just took me with them. They said they wanted to give a message to my tribe." Luke listened carefully. He didn't judge, didn't interrupt. He simply let her speak her truth. I don't think they wanted to scare me, she continued. They just didn't know what to do. Her eyes lowered. But when they tied me to the tree and left, I felt lost. Luke nodded softly. That must have been hard, he said gently. But you stayed strong. You did well. Calm, calm, calm. Naya felt a warmth in his words. She had tried her best to stay brave, and hearing someone recognize that made her feel lighter. Luke looked at the horizon again, thinking, "We'll start moving toward your home at sunrise," he said. "It'll be easier to travel when there's light." "Known," Naya nodded. She felt tired but comforted. The fear that had followed her throughout the evening was finally fading away. She looked at Luke and said quietly, "I'm glad you found me." Luke smiled softly. "I'm glad I did too." The night settled gently around them, wrapping them in a calm blanket of quiet air. Naya closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the safety she had longed for. Luke stayed awake, watching the land, listening to every sound, making sure nothing disturbed her rest. It was a peaceful night, one that held the promise of a new beginning at dawn. And as the stars continued to shine above, Naya knew her journey was no longer frightening because she was no longer alone. The night slowly faded, and the first light of morning began to touch the sky with soft colors of pink and gold. Naya opened her eyes gently. She felt the cool morning air on her skin and heard the peaceful sounds of the plains waking up, the soft whistle of the wind, the distant call of birds, and the quiet rustle of leaves. For the first time since she had been taken from her family, she woke without fear. The blanket Luke had placed around her was still resting on her shoulders, keeping her warm through the night. Luke was already awake. He sat a short distance away, watching the horizon with calm, steady eyes. He had barely slept. He wanted to make sure Naya remained safe through the dark hours. When he noticed she was awake, he gave her a gentle, reassuring smile. "Good morning," he said softly. Naya returned a small smile of her own. "Good morning. How are you feeling?" Luke asked. "A little tired," Naya said truthfully. "But much better than yesterday." Luke nodded with relief. "That's good. We'll take things slow today. No need to hurry." They shared a simple morning. Luke gave her some dried fruit and bread he carried in his saddlebag. Naya ate slowly, feeling her strength returning with each small bite. She felt grateful for everything Luke had done. Not just stopping for her but staying with her through the night, giving her comfort and safety she needed so badly. When they were ready to continue, Luke prepared Willow, tightening the saddle straps and brushing her soft mane. Naya watched quietly, appreciating how gentle he was with the horse. Even Willow seemed to understand the importance of the journey they were about to begin. Luke helped Naya climb onto Willow's back again and walked beside her, holding the reins lightly as they moved across the plains. The sun climbed steadily, spreading warmth over the land. The grass shimmered under its light, and the sky turned a bright, hopeful blue. As they traveled, Naya felt herself growing calmer. Luke's steady presence beside her made her feel protected. Even though she barely knew him, she trusted him deeply. She had seen the kindness in his eyes and the honesty in his actions. Along the way, Luke asked gently, "Can you tell me which direction your home is in?" Naya looked around at the land, noticing landmarks. She recognized the shape of faraway hills, the cluster of trees that formed a natural circle, and the gentle curve of a winding stream. She pointed toward the east. "My home is that way. We used to gather berries near those hills." Luke nodded and guided Willow in the direction she showed. The journey was long, but peaceful. They talked sometimes, but mostly, they traveled quietly, listening to the soft heartbeat of the land. Naya told Luke stories about her tribe, their celebrations, the games the children played, how her mother loved to sing in the evenings, and how her father always carved wooden figures for the younger children. Luke listened with interest. "Your home sounds beautiful," he said. "It is," Naya replied with a gentle pride in her voice. "I just hope they are not worried too much." "They love you," Luke said simply. "Worrying is part of love, but they'll be overjoyed when they see you." Naya held his words close to her heart. As they continued, Luke noticed small signs on the ground, hoofprints, footprints, and paths that looked familiar. "I think we're getting close," he said. Naya looked ahead, her eyes widening with hope. She recognized the tall grasses and the familiar bend in the land. Her heart began to beat faster, not with fear this time, but with excitement. They traveled a little farther until Luke suddenly stopped Willow. Naya looked at him questioningly, but he pointed ahead, smiling. "There," he said softly. Naya followed his gaze. In the distance, she saw figures moving, men riding horses, women gathering near small shelters, and children playing near the river. Her tribe, her family. A wave of emotion washed over her: relief, joy, and overwhelming gratitude. She felt tears gather in her eyes. But these were warm tears, filled with happiness. "My home," she whispered. Luke stepped closer and offered his hand. "Come on," he said gently. "Your family is waiting." Naya slid off the horse carefully, her legs trembling slightly from the long ride. She stood beside Luke, taking a deep breath as she watched her people grow clearer in the sunlight. She could already imagine her mother's face when she saw her. She could picture her father rushing to her with open arms. She could hear the voices of children calling her name with excitement. Luke walked with her, letting her take the lead. As they approached, someone noticed them, a young boy who had been gathering water. His eyes widened, and he ran back toward the camp shouting excitedly, pointing toward Naya. Within moments, more people turned. Their expressions shifted from confusion to shock, then to overwhelming relief. Naya's mother was the first to run toward her, her hands trembling, her eyes filled with emotion. Her father was only a step behind her, his face full of deep gratitude. "Naya," her mother cried, wrapping her arms around her with all the love she had held inside since Naya disappeared. Naya held her tightly. "I'm here, Mama," she whispered. "I'm home." Her father placed a hand gently on her head and closed his eyes in silent thankfulness. "We searched everywhere," he said softly. "We feared you were hurt." "I'm safe," Naya said, looking back at Luke with a small smile. "He helped me." Her parents followed her gaze and saw Luke standing quietly a few steps back, giving them space. He lowered his head politely, his hat in his hands. As a sign of respect, Naya's father approached Luke with gratitude clear in his eyes. "Thank you," he said sincerely. "You brought our daughter back to us. We can never repay you for this kindness." Luke shook his head gently. "You don't owe me anything. I just did what anyone should do." But the tribe didn't see it as something small. To them, Naya's safe return was a gift beyond price, one they would never forget. The tribe welcomed Luke warmly. They offered him food, water, and a place to rest. The children gathered around Willow, admiring her gentle eyes and soft mane. Naya stayed close to her parents, telling them everything that had happened, how she had been taken, how she was left alone, and how Luke had appeared in the night like a quiet guardian. Her mother listened with tears in her eyes, holding her hand the whole time. Her father placed a hand on Luke's shoulder. "Your kindness will always be remembered," he said firmly. Luke nodded softly, touched by their gratitude. But he never acted for praise, he acted because it was the right thing to do. Naya, now safe and surrounded by her people, walked back to Luke later that evening. The sun was setting beautifully, painting the sky in gentle colors. She looked up at him with a grateful smile. "You came at the right moment," she said quietly. "I'll never forget what you did for me." Luke gave a warm, gentle smile. "You're a strong girl, Naya. I only helped a little. You carried the real courage." Naya laughed softly, feeling lighter than she had felt in days. "Maybe we both did," she said. Luke chuckled, and the sound blended with the peaceful evening air. When night fell, the tribe lit small fires, and soft singing filled the camp. Naya sat with her family, holding their hands, feeling safe at last. Luke sat nearby, enjoying the warmth of the gathering. For the first time in a long while, Naya felt complete. The plains no longer felt frightening. They felt like home again. Luke stayed with the tribe for the night, but he knew he would continue his journey the next morning. He was a traveler of the open land, always moving, always helping quietly wherever he could. Before dawn, Naya found him preparing Willow. "Are you leaving?" she asked softly. Luke nodded with a gentle smile. "I have more roads to follow." Naya stepped closer. "Thank you for everything." Luke reached out and placed a kind hand on her shoulder. "Take care, Naya. You have a brave heart. Don't ever lose that." She smiled, her eyes shining. "Safe travels, Luke." Luke tipped his hat, climbed onto Willow, and began to ride away as the sky slowly brightened. Naya watched him go, feeling grateful, not just for being rescued, but for meeting someone whose kindness would stay in her memory forever. And as Luke disappeared into the golden horizon, Naya whispered softly to the morning wind, "Some people come into your life like a light, even if they don't stay long." She turned back toward her home, her heart full of peace, strength, and a deep sense of hope for all the days to come.